So I can't believe it's almost been a year since I did that first video in how to create a hotel booking website. So you've asked me some questions in the comments. I've tried to answer some of them, but so much have changed since I did that first video. But one thing hasn't changed. I still believe the MotoPress hotel booking plugin is definitely one of the most versatile booking plugin for your rental property. Are there others? Sure. But one of the things I really like about MotoPress is that sync, that you could now sync your OTAs with your hotel booking website. I still think that feature works well. It allows you to ensure you don't have overbookings and you could really keep things clean and together. MotoPress have actually added a few new features in the year that has been very useful. I won't cover all of those in this video, but I'm going to be doing some other videos to cover those. But let me show you what we're going to be covering in this video. So here's the website that we're going to build in this video. And as you come to it, the first thing you're going to see that search availability calendar that you will see on the home page, which is excellent. So the guests could come, check for the dates that they're looking for, the date that they're going to check in, check out, and select the number of guests. It has a section for adults and then children, and then click search. Here you get your results. One thing I like about it, it may suggest more than one property to cover the full list of guests that you're going to be booking. As you scroll down, if you have other properties that fits, they will show you those details and you could then go and book those properties. But let's go back to the home page. As we come down, we're going to give a little bit of a background about your property, a nice image that representing what the property looks like. And you could feature some of your accommodations, and these are live. One thing that I like about this is that this is the actual property. It's not a static image that then goes to the page. From this page you could see all the details about the property, the amenities, and then you could go and book the property. As you come down more on the page, we have additional services that you could charge to the guests. This is an excellent way to make extra money with your property. You come down and then we have some testimonials from the guests. There's actually a page as well that lists the other accommodations that you're hosting on your website. So you have a full listing of those accommodations, and this will give you more details. You'll get larger photos, and so you get a much more captivating gallery that persons could go through and see your live images. We also do a page for services. I wouldn't cover this fully in this particular video because you want to also link these to an actual upsell. I will do that in a separate video, but I want to at least cover the full website we're going to cover. And then we have our contact page where persons could send us an inquiry if they don't want to book right away, and you could put your number, your address, and things like that. You also want to link your social icons, as well as there's a book button that can take you to a search availability form where persons could then look at the form that's necessary. One of the things I really love about the MotoPress booking plugin is that, let's say you have a property, you want to someone wants to check this property. As you come down to the availability calendar, you could already see that these sections are not available to be booked. So then you don't have to waste your time checking. You already know between the 20th and the 29th is booked. So you would want to choose a different date or choose another property. So I'm sure you've definitely seen something that's going to make sense for you. So you got to stick around. My name is Joshua. I help hospitality clients as well as small business owners really make money on social media, on their website, as well as how do you bridge those two things together. So let's get into the video. So as I said, the first thing we want to do is get our hosting and domain name for our website. So let's go to two options is available. So the first one is Cloudways. So if you go to vividconsultant.com/Cloudways, here you could go to Cloudways, which offers managed cloud hosting. This might be more than what you need, but if you're definitely looking for something that's going to be super fast and efficient, I use a Vultr hosting server with high frequency. So I'm on this plan right now, which is $13 US per month. This might be more than what you need. My second option would be to use Namehero. So again, if you go to vividconsultant.com/Namehero, Namehero, and this will take you to Namehero's website. This is my affiliate link. It's not going to charge you anything more, but I get a small commission if you use my link, which helps me to continue make great content for you. So you'd want to go to web hosting and you will choose the plan that suits you. If this is your first website, you're not necessarily going to be thinking of doing a new website, then maybe this first one is for you. But you never know. You might want to create a website for your restaurants, or you may want to do some affiliate tour that syncs with your website. I always think, take advantage of the discount. You're going to get either 65% here or 52%. So I'm going to go with this one because I could do 7 websites. I might want to use another website for another property that I might want to manage. If this is too much for you, start with the 1 website, but I'm going to use this one. Here we're going to register a new domain name. As you notice, for that website, I haven't registered the name as yet, even though I went ahead and built the logo and so forth. So I hope no one has actually registered it. So the name of the domain I want to register is 𝗪𝗲𝗀𝗃𝗍𝗂𝐺𝑐om, and we're going to choose search. Great, it's still available, and it would be free if you're subscribing for 2 to 3 years. I'm just going to subscribe for 1 year, so I'm going to have to pay the $12.98. So I'm going to click continue. So again, you could register for 3 years. You're going to get even a 13% discount and take advantage of that. But I'm going to be registering for 1 year. I'm not going to take any of these. I will show you how you could back up your website. You definitely want to get free SSL because you want to make sure you get that little padlock at the corner of your website to ensure that your website is secure. That's what people is going to gain confidence shopping or booking on your website. So make sure that's selected and we'll choose continue. I'm not going to choose any of these. I'm just going to click continue. Here we see our final price. We have our hosting for a year. I have my domain name, and I can come down, put my information and check out. So I'm going to do that now, and then we're going to meet up again in the back end. So I took a break for a few hours just to allow the domain to propagate around the internet, so that by the time I'm ready to install WordPress, everything is set up. And now here's the reason why you wanted to give it a little bit of time. So here we're in the back end of Namehero, and I'm in the domains section. So at first you will notice your domain may say pending. You have to give it some time so it will propagate around the internet. So I've done so already. So if I come to my backend now and I go to my cloud and my services, I will see that my domain is now saying active. So even if I click on this and I can go to cPanel, so here it says log into cPanel. You'll also see on your primary domain it says DV certificate. Now if you're seeing that it is not, your SSL certificate is not automatically installed, if you give it a while it would, but if your domain is now active, you could go ahead and manually install it. So if you scroll down and you're looking below security, you'll see it says SSL TLS status. Click on it, and here you may see that these would be red if it's not automatically active. You could select everything and just click run auto SSL. Once you do so, it will be automatically installed for you. But now that's installed, what we want to do is install WordPress. So we could just click back, go back to your cPanel, and we want to scroll down, and you will notice it gives you below Softaculous App Installer, you will see it says WordPress. You could also come below software where it says WordPress Manager by Softaculous. Either way, you will get to the same place, but I'll click on WordPress. All right, so it brings me into the window where I could get more information about the WordPress installer. You'll see the option here to install now. Click on it. Here's where you'll see the additional details about your installation. Now, if you wanted to install within a particular folder, you could put that name here. But in my case, I just wanted to say 𝗪𝗲𝗀𝗃𝗍𝗂𝐺𝑐om, so I don't want anything else. Now, you also have the option to put in a site title, and you could put in the name of your business or service or hotel here. So I'm going to call mine. And if you have a particular title for your business, then you could put it here. I'll name mine And as you come down, you have your admin username and password. Namehero actually recommend a very strong password. You don't want anyone else to be seeing this, but in my case, this is going to be a test site. I'm going to change this later, but I'm going to copy this and just duplicate it so that it changes to an even stronger password. Then you want to save this somewhere that you will remember it. So I'm just going to copy that and save it somewhere else that I would be able to remember that. The admin username as well, you could change it to something that you want, but let it be something difficult. I'll leave that for now as it is. You also want to use an admin password for an email that you have access to. So I'm going to change this to an email I have access to. And then as you come down, it gives you the option to choose a theme that you want to use. I'm going to be using a different theme, so I'll leave those as is. You could also put in your email address that you want the email installation details to be sent to. I'm going to put in my email here as well. Alright, so now that I've entered my email, I'll just click on install. Okay, so it's now installed. You could now copy this domain. So this is the admin domain that we'll use to access the backend. We could just click on this. So we're now in the back end of our website. We'll notice that it is saying that it's not secure. So we want to fix that. Let's go to settings, then general. And here where it has HTTP, we want to change this to add an S for secure, and we will scroll down and choose save. Alright, it will kick us out of the website, but you'll notice now that we have a padlock here. So let's try to log in again, and I'm going to remember my password and log in. Alright, so we're now in. We'll notice that our website is secure. While we're here, here's a few things we want to do while you're here. Choose your time zone so that your website represent where you are. I am in Trinidad, so I would look for my city, which is Port of Spain. So as I scroll down, I'm looking for Port of Spain. As well as you could change your date format. I would leave mine as is and choose save changes. So there's a few housekeeping things I normally try to do. One of the other things I do is I set my permalinks, and I will choose post name. So it's much easier and cleaner for persons to read. We'll click save changes. I would normally check the posts. If there's any posts, I will delete those. So I will just check that and move to trash. Then I'll go to pages, and I will select the pages and delete those as well. Just move it to trash. I'll check comments. There's no comments there. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is install the theme that we're going to be using for our hotel booking website. The last time I did this tutorial, I was using the Astra theme, and this is still an excellent theme. So if you don't have this theme, you can go to vividconsultant.com/Astra. Alright, and the Astra theme is a very powerful theme. One of the things I love is the starter sites. So if you go to starter templates and you look for a hotel. So here are some themes that are more hotel friendly. So here are the last one I use, which is a one-page, excellent for bed and breakfast, a very simple website. This one here is a full-fledged hotel demo site. It's really for the agency package, so you need to have the paid version of Astra, but you could use the free version in this case. But for this demo, I'm going to be using the Kadence theme. It's a theme that I've been exploring recently, and I found it to be super light and very effective. But either one would work, but for this demo, we're going to be using the Kadence theme. So again, you could go to vividconsultant.com/Kadence. And we'll click the drop down arrow by products, and we'll choose Kadence theme, and we're going to download the free version. Now that that's downloaded, we can go back to our backend, and we're going to go to appearance, themes. We'll choose add new and then upload. I'm just going to drag this in and click install now, and then activate. We're going to go ahead and install the Kadence starter template so that we could get that starter template we're going to be working with for our hotel booking website. We're going to be using the Elementor theme, even though we could use Gutenberg, but we're going to use Elementor for this demo site. Alright, so Kadence is now starting out. They don't have a lot of starter template, but they definitely have one we could work with, which is the real estate template. excellent for what we want to do. So let's click on that. Now here's the things that I really love about the Kadence theme. These options that are tied to every part of the website. First thing, the color scheme. So as you scroll through the website and you change the color scheme, you will notice how the website quickly adjusts to suit the colors that are suiting your brand. So you could always change this later. You may not have the color that suits your brand directly, but choose the one that's closest to it. The next thing you have is the option to choose your font style. Choose one that fits close to what you're looking at. You don't have to be super efficient here. You could always change this later. But I'm going to be choosing this one here, and then I'm going to choose full site install. And then I'll click start importing. It's going to import Elementor and Fluent forms, which I'm going to be using on my contact page. Let's click start importing. Great, that's finished importing. Let me just close this. And we can go and preview our website by clicking finish, view your site. Man, if we were going to be doing a real estate website, this is perfect. Just look at this. Really nice, smooth transitions. It have images that are featured. These have their sessions. And you could already see there isn't a lot of work for us to do. So this is the website that we're trying to build. And as you'll notice, there isn't a lot of things that really had to be updated here. I had to change out these photos. I had to build our accommodations and replace those placeholders. I have a sticky header to the top. I've changed out my images. I now have an accommodation search availability form that's on the home page. But those are the things we just need to get done. So if we go back to our demo site, we want to go to the back end so we could start changing out some of these things, change our logos and so on. But before we do that, we want to install the plugins that we're going to need to manage our accommodation. So we're going to go back to the dashboard and we want to go to plugins. The MotoPress hotel booking plugin. But before we do that, let's clean up the plugins. We don't need this one and that. We could just select them and choose delete. So we're looking for the MotoPress hotel booking plugin. If you don't already have this plugin, same thing, we can go to vividconsultant.com /MotoPress. As we scroll down, we see it here. This is the hotel booking plugin. Let's click on it. So the single site is $79 and you're paying that for the entire year, and you really get your values worth. Again, a plugin that's going to sync with all of your OTAs. It's going to allow you to streamline your properties, have a searchability calendar so people could check for what they need. As I come down, you're going to be able to do real-time availability calendars, and I showed you some of that already. You could manage multiple properties, and I love the fact that you could have varying rates as well. So if you have only 2 person that is staying in the property and you want to choose a lower rate in comparison to if you have maybe 3 or 4, you could also have seasonal rates for summertime, winter time, or in my case, I have carnival rates, Easter rates, or so on. So this plugin really handles all of those things. So if you haven't already purchased it, here's an excellent time to purchase the hotel booking plugin. It's $79. You can click purchase and we could get going. I've already purchased this plugin, so I'm going to go and install it from my copy. So I'm back in plugins. I'm going to choose add new and then upload, and then I'm going to choose my plugin. Let's add it in and then click install. Whoops, we got an error. All right, let's see. Here's an excellent way we could learn how to fix something technical online. So it says the upload file exceeds the upload max file size directive in your PHP. So let's see how we could fix this. So let's go to our backend and we're going to go back to the cPanel and you're going to look for your PHP file. So here we have select PHP version, and here's where it's telling you your current PHP version. So we're currently using 7.3. You know, you always want to move this up as you are comfortable with the software that is updated. You typically don't need to trouble this. This is always recommended by your host provider that is safe. But in this case, we do need to update our max file size limit to accommodate our plugin. Right now our plugin is about 3 meg, so definitely the 2 meg is too small for that. So let's increase it a little bit. We're probably gonna 16 meg should probably be fine for what we want to do. And let's, now that that's set, we could now try this again. So let's go back now to our website. Let's go back and let's try and upload it again. And let's say install. Excellent, it's working. And we can now choose activate plugin. Right, what we want to do now is install the recommended pages for the hotel booking plugin. So let's choose install pages. Then we want to go and activate our plugin. So if we go to accommodation and come down to settings, you're going to come over to license. You're going to look for your license number. Okay, so we'll come back here, select the box and insert your key and save the changes. And we'll now click activate license. Excellent, so mine is activated. So we now want to proceed to add our different accommodation type. But if you've reached this far, come on, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe so that you'll get more content like this. But let's talk about accommodation type. How do you use accommodation type? Alright, this is the best way for you to think about it. Let's assume you have a property, and in my case, I manage a property that has 7 villas. Now, 3 of these villas are all the same. So for example, I could just call these, let's say, deluxe villas, and I could create one property type under deluxe villas and then say I have 3 properties of this particular type. So in that case, I would create one property and then say I have 3 of these particular type. However, in some cases, each of the property that you have is unique and different, and you want it to be booked individually, and you may want to change the prices for each of those villas. So for example, I have 3 villas and one includes 4 beds. One includes 3 beds, and one, even though it's 4 bed, it's a small double in comparison to 3 queens. Because of this, I want to create a unique type for each one of the accommodations so that I could manage it differently. Similarly, when I link these properties on Airbnb, I want to make sure that they're easily synced between each other. So I would create a property type for each one of these unique villas, and that way I could manage them separately. So let's do that. So we'll go to property type and we're going to choose add accommodation type. So if I go back to the example I was using, as you've noticed, I have 3 different property, the 𝗶𝗺𝗃 Villa, Periwinkle Villa, and Orchard. So I'm going to use the details for this villa. So let's go back. So we'll enter the name, and here we'll enter a description for your property. So you want to have a very comprehensive description. So you will paste your description for your property in this window here. Just read it over, make sure it sounds the way you want it to sound, and it properly describe what your property represents. In the excerpt, you want to use a shorter description of your property. So I'll just use that first segment that just gives a highlight of what the property is. And then we will come down. Here we have some custom fields. We could ignore that. Now here is where we're going to say the number of accommodations that we have. And this is exactly what I was talking about. Let's assume this is a particular property type, but I have 3 exact property under the 𝗶𝗺𝗃 Villa. Then here I would say I have 3 of that particular accommodation, but in my case it's one of these villas. Now here's where you would indicate how much adults do you want to accommodate in this villa. In my case, I want to say that this villa will accommodate 6 adults. Now I may decide that I would also, in addition to the 6 adults, I may want to accommodate X amount of children that might want to sleep with those for no additional cost. Or you could choose to have an additional cost for children. Now here's the capacity. Now the capacity allows you to set a certain limit for the entire property. So if you say this will only accommodate a capacity of 6 persons, for example, then what this means is that you could have 3 adults and 3 children, or 4 adults and 2 children. It will always max out at your max capacity. If you leave this blank, then it will always add up these 2 and say, okay, your max capacity is definitely going to just be 9, and in any variation of those, but it will not go over 3 children and it will not go over 6 adults. So that's up to you, but I'm gonna say without children. I'm gonna leave that blank. Here, if you have the size of your property, you could enter it here. I don't have mine, I'm going to leave that out. You could put your view, and it gives you some examples: city view, seaside, swimming pool, or so on. So I'm going to say for this property that it is a city view. Now your bed type, you could enter your bed type in your settings, or you could enter them manually here. If we go to settings, if I click on this, it will open the settings area. We could scroll down, and as we come down to this section, we're looking for bed type. So we could add the bed type here. Now in my case, ideally I would have liked to know you could have selected more than one bed type at the same time, but you can't. So even if I say I have king size and I add that as a bed type, and then I say I have queen, I can't add both of them together. So in my case, the villa that I manage includes one king size and two queen. So I will add this as a separate bed type, while I have another unit that includes one king size and three queens, and the third property includes one king size, two queens, and one small double. So these are the properties these are the bed types. We'll come back to some of the other settings. Let's just complete the accommodation. I'll scroll down and choose save changes. So let's go back to the property that we were adding. It wouldn't get reflected yet because I need to save this particular property so far. So I'm gonna save and publish this so that I could just refresh it. So if I come down now and I click the drop down arrow, I'll now see the options for the different bed size. But for this particular property, it is one king size and three queens. So let's now look, as we come over to the right, we have the option of selecting a category. I'm not going to choose a category for this. You could also choose tags. What's important is your amenities. You could add your amenities from this option here, or you could add your amenities below accommodation and you have your accommodation types. So let's take a quick pause. We're going to go over to amenities and add some amenities as well. So let's say you offer free Wi-Fi. Your slug basically is the same description without any space, and if you have a description, you could indicate in that skill, but I'll leave it out. And we can go ahead and add a few more amenities. So I'll say air condition and add. So I'm going to go ahead and add some, and so you don't have to wait on me adding all of these. It's totally the same. So once I finish, we will catch back up. Okay, so I've gone ahead and added some amenities. You should do the same. You could add your description and so on. I didn't go ahead and add those, but that's totally fine. So let's go back now to our accommodation and continue. So here we are, we have our accommodation. I'm just going to refresh this page, and we should now see our accommodations listed here, and you could just select the accommodations relevant to your accommodation type. As we scroll down, we want to add your photos for the villa. So we're going to go ahead and add a gallery of photos for this particular villa, and I'm going to upload my photos. I'll click select file. Alright, so I've now added all the photos. Now I typically go and optimize my photos before I'm uploading it. Your photos is very important. Try to get some professionally taken photos so that it really gives a good representation of your property. Alright, so we will add these photos. And then we want to add a featured photo kind of representing that unit. So I'm going to be selecting this one here, and I think that's the photo that I have on the home page that I use for the actual website. So let's select that as the featured image. Alright, so we kind of have most of the basic things set. We're going to look at adding services in another video. This is if you want to add like a spa or a breakfast or things like that that you could charge extra for. So I'm going to leave that out for now. Oh, let's select, I didn't save this, so it was one king and three queens. and I'm just going to click update. All right, so we have our first property, and we could take a view of how that would look. All right, so this is just a quick preview of how this look. We have to do some work on our actual customizing for headers and things like that, but we'll deal with that after. But you could see already this property listing is already coming together. We have our availability calendar, we have the details about the property, and we have some information as well, but we're not finished yet. That's just giving you a quick preview of what it looks like. If we go back, let's look at continue adding. We're going to add 2 more accommodation in the same way. Great, so we have that down. The next thing we want to do is to add our seasons. Let's click on seasons, so accommodation and then seasons. The seasons are what you want to do before you even add your rates. So in my case, different seasons we may charge different prices. So for example, right now here in Trinidad and Tobago, it's around that time for carnival. So the first part of the year we have like a carnival season, and I say it's 2021, and I would say we're gonna start this to go from January to, let's say, February, and I'm gonna then publish that season, and then I'm gonna add a new one. And for this one, let's say it might be Easter, even though Easter is for a particular period of time. Just for this example, we will, I hate when this pops up, so sometimes you can't really see the date, so I sometimes have to either type it in directly or click outside of it so that I could just choose the date. So we're gonna say we're gonna choose from March, and same thing here, just kind of get on the outside, and we're gonna let that go to, let's say, May. So you kind of get the point. You want to make sure you create your seasons based on your property. So for the last one, I'm just going to do for the rest of the year. So I'm just going to say end of year, and we will, where did I end the last one? Was that May? So I think let's say from June to the rest of the year. And let's go to the 31st, and let's say publish. Okay, so let's click into seasons, and we'll just make sure I have those correct. So I have Carnival January to February, then March to May, and then we have from June to the 31st. But so now that we have your season, now you want to go and set your rates relevant to those seasons. I'm just going to use the first part so that you could get an idea of that. So let's click on rates, and we'll choose add new rate. We're going to select our accommodation type, so we're going to start with the first one, and then we're going to say create rate. You could add a description, but in my case I'll leave that blank. Let's just say create rate. I missed a step there. We should have added our title, so let's just call this our standard PUI rate. Now you could have a rate for, let's say, breakfast and the accommodation as one rate, and then you could have let's say a non-refundable rate and a refundable rate or so on for the same property. So when someone goes to book, they will see the 3 different rates. You want to select the season that a rate is relevant to. So in this case, I'm going to choose Carnival season, and I'm going to enter the price for that particular season. So let's say I wanted to give a price of 1,000 TT per night. You may also want to give a discount for persons booking for longer period. So for example, let's say you're booking for a week. I might say I want to offer you a 10% discount if you're staying for a week. So in that case, you will pay $900 a night. And similarly, if you're staying for more than a month, I may want you to pay $800 per night if I'm going to give you a 20% discount. But let's say we're feeling generous for longer stays, and we want to give like a 40% discount. So we'll say, hey, you're going to be paying $600 a night. Now you may want to offer a discount for, even though your property could accommodate 6 persons, What if it's just a couple and you want to give a smaller discount for if it's 2 persons or maybe 4 persons? So if we go to enable variable price, then we could add a variation, and we could now say if it is just a couple and I'm going to leave children as 0, let's assume we're not accommodating children in this property, then we might say, you know what, if it is just a couple, I'm going to charge $600 a night, and I'm still going to give us a smaller discount if this person is staying for a week. So I'll say, hey, it's $500 if you're staying for a week, and maybe if you're staying for the month, it will be $300. And then we could say, hey, if it's 3 persons, I'm going to leave it at maybe going up. So let's say if it's 3 persons and no children, we will do $800, and we will, let's say in this case, we'll do $600 and $400. And we'll do the same if it's 4 persons. So we're almost just jumping up as for couples. Now we could do 5 persons, and we could decide that even from 5 persons, we want it to also just be the same as the accommodation there. Now if we don't put this in, it will automatically defer to your standard rate that you want. So if you want to have something specific, you're going to want to add that variation. So for example, I didn't do 1. So if you didn't do a variation for that, it will revert to your standard rate that you. So you got to think about it. So every variation that you want to make an account for, try to put it in. So even for the 1, let's use the same rate as a couple. Okay, and we will test that eventually. So that's what you will have. Let's say your carnival season. If you want to add a separate season, you can come down and do the same thing, follow the same process. I'm going to say Easter, and then I could, if I have a different rate for Easter, let's assume Easter is more popular, then I could say, you know what, for the same property, I'm going to be charging $1,200 per night in Easter, and for the week, I might say I'm going to charge you $1,000 for the week, and similarly for the month, let's say we're going to be charging $800 per night. All right, and then you could do the same thing. You could add variations. You could do for the end of the year season and continue. But you already seen so much flexibility. You could be very specific about different combinations that you want to do, and to ensure that you cover all your different specials and so on. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to update the rate. One of the things I like about this is that it offers me the opportunity of duplicating the rates. So if your other properties are very similar, then you could just say duplicate the rates. It will create a copy, and now we can edit it, and we can now say that this one is relevant to the second property type. So this is going to be for Orchard, and I'm going to select it, choose update rates, and when I come in, I have all the rates that are there. So let's say for this particular property, maybe it's price slightly different, so I can make my adjustments as necessary for this particular property, and then you could make your changes. But I'll leave the rest as is for now, and I'll say update rates, and we'll do the same thing. Great. Now let's take a look at the settings. So as we come down to settings, there's a lot we could really do here, and I can kind of take an entire video to go through this, and I did most of this in my previous video, but let's see how best we could quickly go through some of the settings. Below here where we have our search results, you want to leave these as is. Now if you add your terms and condition page, here's where you want to set that. We could also decide what is going to be your confirmation mode? By default, you could have your customers confirm via email. They'll need, once they verify their email, it will confirm the reservation, and then you have to follow up with a payment. If you have a payment gateway, the best thing for you to do is to confirm upon payment, and in that way, if they're paying with credit card, it will automatically confirm. However, if they do select payment by bank transfer, it will also confirm the payment. So you're going to still want to follow up with that, follow up with the payment, and then you could decide if you're going to drop it or not. And I'll show you what I use to kind of manage that. Similarly, this is a default booking page. You can leave that set. Now, this approval time for the user is especially for email. So let's say someone make a reservation. It's going to give them 20 minutes for them to go to their email and update it or confirm it. Otherwise, it's going to drop them from the reservation and don't hold up your bookings. As you come down, you could have the country of residence required. I normally have that required. I want to know where the customer is booking from. You could decide if you want to have the full address field as required. I leave these out as well. You could decide, so to save the person the hassle of what's going to be the default country on checkout. Now, if most of your checkout is from a particular country, like in my case, I am in Trinidad and Tobago, I might use that just to save most of my customers or guests the hassle to always be entering that. You could decide if you want to have the price breakdown unfolded by default, and I'll show you what that means. Do you want to give the guests to cancel their own bookings via email? That's up to you. I don't. I prefer they contact me directly and then I make the arrangements I could understand. Now, if your property cannot facilitate over 30 persons, then it makes no sense that you have this number here. But if, let's say in my case, I am renting 4 properties of which sleep about 6 persons, so I really can only facilitate about 24 persons. So if that's the case, I want to choose that number here. It don't make sense I add a number bigger than what I can accommodate. Now, do you want to specify a particular age for the persons that are kind of bringing their children? Then you could specify that here, and it will be listed with a section that says children. So you could change the label, but for now I will leave mine as is. You have a direct booking form. You could decide if you want to show the price for the selected period or show the price together with adults and children field. I just leave it as the default. You also could decide how you want to manage your guests. Do you want the adult and children to show separately, or do you want it just to say guests? So in that case, you could disable children and it will just say 10 guests, and they could decide how much of it is children and how much is adults. You might want to separate it so you could understand who's really coming to the property, especially if you have a different rate for adults and children. Here you could change some of your miscellaneous like your currency or so forth. So again, in my case, if most people are going to be booking with my currency, which in some case, depending on my payment gateway, I'll probably want to set that. I do have a US payment gateway as well. So depending on how I want to charge customers, here is where you will decide that. But I'm going to change mine to Trinidad and Tobago. You could decide if you want to have your currency position before and after your date picker, what format you want for your date picker. And here's very important. What is your check-in and check-out time? So in my case, my check-in time is 11 a.m. but my check-in time actually is 3 p.m. So that's going to be 3 p.m. or 1500 hours. I got that correct, right? I always mix that up. And my checkout time is 11 a.m. for my property. So I want to set that. As I come down, you could decide how long you want to show your lowest prices for. I leave that as is. You could decide how you want to do so. Here, very important, do you want to offer coupon codes for customers to act on quickly to say, hey, if you book before this time, you're going to get a certain percentage off, or if you use this coupon code, you could get X off. I sometimes use this too to make adjustments for customers that I offer them something special and I want to adjust in the back end. I use coupon codes for that as well. So you may want to select that as well. Text on checkout. Do you have any special instructions that you want customers to know? when they're checking out. Here's an excellent place where you could put some of that instructions. Do you want to disable booking? Maybe hide the reservation forms on booking. Maybe you don't want customers to book directly to your website, you want them to contact you. Then maybe you could use this option. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but the option is there for you. And we have our display options. You could decide how you want your theme template. What about your calendar theme? Do you want a specific different color, more suited for your brand? Then you could make that kind of adjustment here. So let's say I'm going to be using, let's say, a light coral. I didn't do this in the original one, but yeah, it's interesting. Let's see what that might look like. Now here is something that we're going to want to do, and this is going to allow us to add additional style, especially when we're using Elementor. So, but I want to show you the before and after. So I'm not going to install that yet. I'll show you what this does actually when we're doing the changes. Your calendar synchronization, how do you want to manage this? Do you want to export admin blocks? Meaning if I block off a particular unit and that unit is being rented on Airbnb, do I want that to be exported as well? And I would say, you might want to check that. As well as you could say, do not export imported bookings. What does that mean? I got some bookings from booking.com, but I want to export that to Airbnb to block those units off so they're synchronized. So you may want to uncheck that as well so that you could ensure that that is exported. Your calendar synchronization scheduler, do you want to enable automatic external calendar synchronization? You definitely may want to do this if you have other properties that you're trying to synchronize on Airbnb and so forth. And then you could decide what time do you want that done, and you could then choose. So here's where you will choose your interval and how often you want this to be done. So you might decide you want it to be done quarter of an hour, half an hour, once a day. If you have very frequent bookings, then do it as frequently as possible. But if you don't have a lot of bookings, you don't want to be taxing your website every quarter of an hour. So that depends on you in terms of how often you're getting a booking. You may want to set that. So for me, I would set it every half an hour. And when do you want to delete your logs? Quarterly is fine. So these are some other WordPress features. Do you want to enable block editor for your accommodation type or enable block editor for your services? That's up to you. In this case, we're going to be using Elementor for some of the things we're going to be doing, but this is more so in the back end, so you could decide. But this is fine. Let's click save changes for now. Let's go through some of the other settings. So you have your admin emails, and this will be emails like pending booking email. If you have any specific instructions, you want it to be more personal, you could come in here and change your details for the booking. Some of these placeholders, those will replace with the actual pricing, so don't mess with those. Maybe just more descriptive things if you want to add something personalized. Then with around some of these information, you may want to update it and change the information. The recipient email, you could decide how you want that to go as well. If outside of your admin email, you may want to add an additional email for someone else helping you with your bookings, you may want to then enter those information here. So you could always read through these, see if it makes sense for you, and then update it. Let's go back. We have the customer emails. So here again, you could decide if you have a cancellation booking email or a new booking email with confirmation. Again, do you have any special instructions for your customers that they need to know? Then you want to put that in these particular email, so the person will get that detail as well. Your approved booking email. So you have all those details there. Go through them, see what works for you, and make the changes. I'm going to leave the default as is. Your email settings, you may want to spend a little bit more time here. So you could decide on a few things. Number one, your logo. It's good that you could put your logo URL here so that it comes up on your emails that are sent out. So that's something we're probably going to come back and do. I haven't added the email at the front end yet. We're going to do that shortly. But here you could actually put some of your brand color. So let's say, your brand color. If you know the specific code for your brand, you may want to enter that here. outside of that, you could choose the color that best suits you. You could use the color that best suits you for your particular brand, so that it's closer to what customers would expect. To see the email, they know that's really coming from you. We'll save the changes. And then your payment gateways. The MotoPress booking plugin already comes set to be used with some of the popular payment gateways such as PayPal or Stripe. If you're using direct bank transfer, you want to turn it on, so you could go and activate it. So here's where you decide how do you want users to pay. Now you could decide to take a full payment upfront or a deposit. So in my case, I take a deposit and I request 50% deposit upfront. And then it asks you for the deposit time phrase in days. So it asks, apply deposit to bookings made in at least the selected number of days prior to the check-in. Otherwise, the full amount is charged. So in that case, in my case, I say 14 days. If it is that you are booking 14 days outside of your arrival, it will ask you for 50% deposit. But if you're going to be arriving within 2 weeks, it will ask you for the full amount. You could decide what works best for you. Here are things like with your SSL if you want to force secure checkout, but our website is already secure, so I'm not going to really set that. You also have a pending payment time, so this is the period of time in minutes a user is given to complete payment. Unpaid bookings are abandoned or accommodation status changes to available. So if they said I'm paying by credit card, they didn't pay within 60 minutes, it will cancel the booking. Something must have went wrong. However, the only issue I have with this is if the person choose direct bank transfer, it confirms the booking. So that's something I think I would like to get the option later on, so that I could decide how long should I set for things like that. So I will check that, but we need to activate our gateway for that to occur. I'm going to save the changes here, but for the benefit of this, let's turn on pay on arrival, and we're going to also turn on direct bank transfer so that we could see some of the payment options that you would have. Now here's where you would enter you would enter some details to explain to the customer what really needs to happen. So in my case, I usually tell customers make your payment directly into a bank account within 72 hours to confirm reservation. So I usually give my guests about 72 hours to make your payment, and so that I could hold your reservation. And then here's where you would put your banking instructions. This is my bank, this is our bank account number, routing numbers, things like that for your accommodation. But now that we've set a direct payment option, what we want to do is go back now to general, and we'll come down and change this to confirmation upon payment, so that will now require customers to pay to confirm your booking and not just send us an email. And especially if you're accepting credit card or so forth, you definitely want to do that. If you're someone that's still doing it very manual, you could choose by admin manually. So you could, if you need to vet the guests before they come, if you want to get some additional information to make sure you're booking your place to for the right persons, then you may want to choose that. But I'm going to choose confirmation upon payment. Choose save changes. Extensions. MotoPress comes with a lot of cool extensions, and I'm probably going to do separate videos for some of these extensions. For example, your hotel booking WooCommerce payment. In my case, in Trinidad and Tobago, I don't have easy access to use PayPal and Stripe, so I use a local payment gateway. And to give you access to some of those local payment gateways in your territory or country, you probably will need this plugin as an extension. I also use this one, the hotel booking payment request, so that if I want to send a particular link to the customer to make their payment, I could also send them that link via WhatsApp or another communication, and it takes them right to the payment page so that they could make their payment. MailChimp is something that you could also use if you want to engage in capturing customers' contact details into your subscription list and then send them an email. I don't necessarily use this one, but I do use the PDF invoice, especially somewhat of like a receipt as well, that I could send a direct invoice to someone separately if they made their booking. I use the hotel booking reviews as well, which is really excellent to get reviews from customers. You could set what are the things you want them to review you on. And the hotel booking Elementor integration, we definitely going to need this plugin, so I'm going to take the opportunity now to download it. All right, so we have that downloaded, and let's go back and see if there's anything. And if you're using Divi, then you could download the Divi integration, but we're going to be using Elementor for our extension. All right, so those are just a review of the different extensions, and let's move on. Now that we have done that, we've done a lot of work in the backend already. I think it's time we start looking at the website. You know, let's look at what is looking at right now. Again, it's still the default images. We don't have the right logo in place yet. You know, we want to be able to change and modify our window. You know, this is our target. This is what we're trying to get it to. We want to have our own background, our own logo. We have a different logo for when we scroll down, so it has a nice sticky header to the top. It's kind of a little bit translucent, so you can see through it a bit. We want to have our own properties here and so forth. So we have a little bit of work to do. Let's get to it. All right, so let's go to appearance. So scroll down, go to appearance, and we're going to choose customize. All right, so this is the customizer for the Kadence theme, and we could start from the top and work our way down. So we have this option here to change our logo and so forth, and you could come right here and click on it, or you could go to headers, and we have the option here for logo. So we have this logo that we have, and because of the background, you know, we have a nice white logo. In your case, you want to make sure you have your logos in the appropriate format and font that you're using. So we're using a transparent header in this case, based on the version of the layout we're working with. Make sure your logo works. Okay, so we're going to click change logo, and I'm going to go and upload my logo. I went ahead and uploaded both the white version, the colored version, and the site icon, which normally is displayed to the top of the window next to the name when you kind of get to the home page. So we're going to use the colored version of the logo. I'm going to say select, and I'm going to skip the crop so that I bring in the entire logo. Now, this is not what we want for the particular background right now, but we're going to change that. But let's continue. As you scroll down, you'll see the option for site icon, and we want to have an icon to represent our website. In my case, I'm just going to use the icon. I'm going to skip cropping as well. You may not see that, but it's really to the top of my page when you're browsing on the website. If I bring this down, it's what you're seeing here. All right, so that is the site icon. Let's continue. I'm gonna go back, and we could choose publish so that we could at least have that there. So let's continue. Now we have different type of headers. So that was the regular header that we're setting, but we have a transparent header. We want to have a different logo for our transparent header. When we come down, we'll see it has the option here to say different logo for transparent header. If we turn that on, it now gives us the option to change the logo for the transparent header. So I want to use this white logo here. I'm going to choose that, and we'll now see that the logo is different for the transparent header, and that's fine. That's looking good so far. I think that's really about it. You could decide if you want to change the size as well, you know, so if you want the logo to be a little bit bigger on your screen, it's kind of up to you. And I'll just make mine about 300. That works. And let's go back now, and I want to, again, this is what we're trying to accomplish. So we have like a sticky header when I now use the other logo. All right, so let's go back and add that. There's another thing as well. I have a button in the header. So here is where we have a drag and drop option here. So once you hover your mouse over the section, so for example, depending on what you're doing, you might want to add something above your header. So let's say you wanted to add maybe your contact number or something like that. Then you could say, you know, call us now, and you could include your number. You may choose a number that represents your property. So let's assume that was your number, and then we could change the design and say we would want this to be white so you could see it. So now you're kind of seeing it to the top there, and you may want to adjust it so that the margin, you know, maybe it's a little bit lower down, and so that you have some space there. You could kind of bring it down. All right, so that's just giving you an idea in terms of if you want to use something above your main header. But in my case, I'm going to take that out. I'm not going to be using that. Let's add our button, all right? Because in my case, I have a button that I want someone, if they, a quick call to action, if you want them to book now, and to edit that, you'll choose this little circular icon here for editing that button. And we want to change that button to book now, and we will come back. We'll put in the URL for our accommodation page so that someone could click on that and go straight to the accommodation page, see the different accommodations, and choose the booking that they want to do. That's looking fine so far. We now want to go and add that sticky header. So let's go back, and we have this option here for sticky header. Let's come in, and it says, do you want to enable sticky header? And we want to say, we could say yes, only the main row. So when we come down, we're seeing a sticky header, but we're not seeing anything. Well, part of the reason why we're not seeing anything is because, well, number one, we should be seeing our logo, but let's look at our sticky header. Let's choose a different logo for stock header, and we're gonna select our image. So we want to select the colored image. All right, so we have that there. We're now not seeing our menu, so we want to edit our primary menu as well for the sticky header. So we're going to come to design. We want to change our navigation color as well. So the initial color, we're going to choose our brand color so that that changes as well. And if you want to change your hover color, you could change that. So when you hover over the icon, it could change. So we could choose our alternate color as the hover color, so you see a slight change in that. And as well as you could, if you want to change your active color, we'll leave that as is. In our example that we're looking at, we have a kind of dark background. So to achieve that, you'll see we have the sticky header background, and let's just say we choose that dark background, and then I made it a little transparent, so you're kind of seeing some of the background while you're scrolling down, right? So that's what you're seeing there. You could decide now if you want to change your social icon. To do that, you could come to the social colors, change the social icon, and you could do the same thing in terms if you want to have a hover color for the social icons. When you hover over them, they just have a slight change on those icons. So to change your social icon, if you click the edit button for the social button right here, you could click the drop down arrow and then put in your Facebook address, Instagram, and if you want to add any additional social icon, you could click add, and you could choose Twitter, YouTube, or whichever you want to add to your page. And yeah, so we've kind of have our header set. So let's click publish. You could scroll all the way to the bottom, and you may want to take an opportunity to change your footer as well. You could do that by going back out and choosing the footer icon, and you have those icons right there. You could decide if you want to add anything else. So like your copyright, you may want to edit those. So, you know, I don't want it to say by Kadence. I just probably want my site icon, and if you had any other information that you may want to put that in there. Do you have a little history about your property? So you may want to change that as well. I will change mine and just call it Island Staycation. Let's see what I had on our main property. All right, so we had some information there. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to change that information. So whatever information you had about your property, you could include that there. That updates. You could change your address, and same thing, you could change your social icon for your property. So in our case, we weren't necessarily using YouTube, so I could remove that item, and I'm going to remove Twitter as well. So we have our social icons there. If you don't have a policy and disclaimer, you could remove that, or you could update yours. All right, but I will leave the rest as is, and let's publish that. You know, there's so much more that we could do here, but you know, this is really just trying to get you started in setting up your hotel booking website. I'll probably have to do a more in-depth tutorial in terms of how to use the Kadence theme, but there's a lot of great tutorials in terms of how to use this theme and how to get that set up. But now that we have most of those basic things there, let's look at editing the actual page. So let's close this. Just before I go to the end, just remember we have that Elementor plugin to add, but as I said, I want to demo that to you before we do so. So if we go to all pages and we want to change our home page, so we have our home page here and it has an option to edit with Elementor. Let's just open that in a new page. All right, so we have the front end here. We're going to start from the top. So if we click this icon to the top to select this main background, with Elementor on the left, you have the controls for these widgets, which is the image that we're seeing in the background there. On the layout is where we could adjust the layout if we wanted those items in this page to be full width. You could have it like that, which kind of takes up more of the page, but you know, that's kind of too close to the edge. So I'll leave it as boxed for now, or I'll show you how we could make that a little wider if you want it. You know, here you have some controls where you could kind of manually set that in terms of how wide you want it. So maybe if you want a little bit more space and not all the way to the edge, then we could adjust it like that, so you have a little bit more space put on the page as well. So if I go all the way out, that's not too bad. All right, let's go to style, and we want to change that background image. So I'm going to select the image here, and I'm going to be choosing one of the images that represent our property. So I'm going to use this one here. Now, the original image was much darker. When I collapse so I could see my heading, even though I could see it, it's a little bit harder because it is white and they have some white in the background. So what you want to do to kind of just make it a little easier to read, you have this background overlay here. If we could increase the opacity a little bit so the background image becomes dark. If you go all the way up, it's fully dark. But if you come down, you still want to see the image in the background, but you want it just a little bit darker so that the white pops a little bit more. So I'm going to leave it somewhere around there. So when I come, you know, you could really see the background. You could still see the background image, but that's now a little bit easier to read. And now we have our text. You want to now update your text to what you want to do. So I'm going to just quickly grab the text I have here. So I have a warm welcome staycation. Let me just add that here. And great, so that's updated. You could clearly see my font style that I used here is different. I'll show you where you want to do that. As much as you could change the font style for each of your items here in Elementor, I wouldn't recommend you to be changing it here. Use the system default, and I will show you where we really should have changed that in the settings. So let me take an opportunity to do that very quickly. So if we go back to our appearance and customize, now go to general and you'll see typography, and here is where you could change the different fonts. So you have your heading font. I am using, I think it is sans serif as my heading font, and then I am using, I think, Photo for my base font. So if I look at these two, it should look much closer. Yeah, so that looks more like what I had. So let me publish that. When I go back and I refresh, okay, that looks much closer to the site we're trying to replicate. So I have a little subtext. I'm going to copy that. We'll come in this, oh, wrong window. We'll come in the section and we're going to paste that there. Great. Now, might just have to click outside of it for it to update. Now, the next thing we have this book an appointment here, but we have something much better. We have a search availability form that we want to enter in our window. Now, to do that, we have these this button right here to see all of the widgets that's available. If you scroll down, you are looking for we would have wanted to see MotoPress booking plugin here, but as I said, we didn't install it yet. So that's what we're looking for. Otherwise, we have to use a kind of short code, which is what I did in the previous tutorial I was doing. But let's use the Elementor widget, which is much easier. So if I go back to the back end, we can exit that and we could go to plugins, add new, and let's choose upload, and we could install this plugin. And let's activate. Now let's go back to the front end. I'm going to update this. I'll close this and let's refresh the page. Now if I scroll down, I will see a section here now that says MotoPress hotel booking plugin. Now, if I drag this in here, one of the things you'll notice is that this now is vertical. It don't look as good as this. Now, this is some of the options that becomes available when we install that additional styling that we saw, that I said I want to come back to. So that's what we want to do. We want to get that additional styling in place so that when we install that search availability form, we can be able to edit it so that it is horizontal. So let's do that. So if we go back and we come to accommodations and settings, and under general, scroll down and you are looking for more styles, and here we're going to choose install and activate. All right, so it brings us to this extension section and it gives us the class for you to make the form horizontal. So you're just going to copy this to your clipboard. Let's go back to the front end now. We're going to refresh. Let me just update, make sure I didn't change anything, and let's refresh it. And now let's scroll down. We're going to look for the search availability form. We're going to drag it in place. So now that we have it in place, let's paste the class that we copied in this section here that says class. And when we paste that, there you go. It's automatically looking better. It's horizontal. So now we could remove this book button, but you know, it's a little bit harder to read as it is. So if you notice what I did with this one, I kind of add a little background so that it stands out a little bit. And so that's up to you how you want to style that. But you could come to advanced, come to background, and you could add a gradient, which is what I did. I added a main color, and then you could add another color. So let's say something like that. It's up to you. And then I made the background a little transparent so it's not too obvious. So we could do that. And if you want the main color to be a little transparent as well, then you could do that. So you could kind of see a little bit of the background. It's not as protruding as it's necessary. Now you could tweak it a little bit better. You could change the background a little bit more. So if it's still too obvious, you know, you could still change the transparency a little bit more and tweak it to your liking. That's, you know, that's totally up to you. When you get to that point, you could continue to tweak that as necessary. So it is nice and subtle. Person should just be able to use it. They could click in the box, select the amount of person that they're booking. You notice this ends at 24 because I set that. You have the children here, and you should be able to search. So let's come down, let's continue. Now we're going to change this image here. To change the image, we'll click on it and we're going to choose an image that's representing our entire property. So if someone just want to get a feel for what the general property looks like, we're going to change that image there. And you know, you could make some adjustment if you want to the background or the width of the image and so forth. You have the height, you could adjust the height and things like that, but I would prefer, you know, you kind of keep that aspect ratio, so I'm just going to delete that. You could change the opacity for that as well, make it lighter or whatever, but leave it as is. You just want something to represent your property. And you know, it has that nice overlapping effect, but you could adjust that as well by coming to advanced, and if you want it to be a little bit lower down, or if you want to keep it where it is, you could adjust it. You have the left and right as necessary. So if you delete that, it will make the images a little bit bigger as well, and you have the left and right as well. So if you reduce that as well, it will make the image a little bigger. So here's where we could put in the name of the property or something about your property. Your staycation awaits. I'm just going to copy that text and change it here. I have the address of my property here, which is Signal Hill, is one of the properties I manage in Tobago. And then we have a little description about your property. You could choose what works for you. And I'm going to paste that there. All right, now here I just had to learn more. If you had an About Us page and you want to link to that About Us page, then you could have this link to that page. So in our case, where we have this About page, I could say, if I click here where we have link, I could say About, and it will bring up the option for the page. So when I click on this, it will take me to the About Us page that we have about your property. So I will update that. I come down and we have the option now for featured property. So here is where we want to enter our live properties, and to do that we need the IDs for each of our individual properties. So to do that, you need to go back to your settings, go to your accommodation types, and we have your different accommodation. Now what you want to do is, as you hover your mouse over the accommodation, you'll notice you have this ID here. So that's the ID for the property. If you just copy that, so in my case it's 1264, go back to Elementor. You want to click to see the different widgets. If you come down, we are looking for single accommodation, right? So if you select that, we want to place it here. So I'm going to remove that and I'm going to drag this into this space. So this is the single accommodation, but what it needs in the section over here is the ID. So I could paste that ID that I had for that property. So that pops in right there. I could decide if I don't want the gallery or not. I find this is a bit glitchy. I saw this when I was going through. I need to follow up with that. But what we want to have is, so in my case, I have the gallery so that you could scan through and see the images, and then we could do the same thing for the others. So I'm going to remove these and I'm just going to copy and paste these in here. But what I do want is a specific property, each accommodation type in its own section. So if I go back to accommodation, hover my mouse over the second one, I see this one is 1283. I could come back the second one and I change that to 1283. Okay, and let's turn off the featured image. So I just have the gallery, and this is what I was talking about. You kind of want to make sure your first image is relevant to the size that you want. So we're going to need to fix that, but we will come back to that. Let's look at the third property, and we have Periwinkle, which is 1297. Let's choose that, and we're going to change this to 97. Okay, and we're going to turn off the featured image so that we have this. So these two looks good, but we need to fix this one for Orchard. Let's update this. Let's go and fix that. If we go to the accommodation and we had Orchid, let's choose edit, and let's come down to the gallery. We see this main image here. Let's click on it. What we want to do is move this from being the first image. So let's edit the selection, and we may want to take maybe something like this to be the first image or something like that. So these images with that is in a different aspect ratio, you maybe want to put them a little lower down in your gallery so it don't show off the layout of your page. And then let's add that to the gallery. So we see that change there. Let's update it. Let's go back to Elementor and let's refresh. Okay, let's scroll down. Okay, so that's looking much better now. We have the descriptions and so forth. Its prices and different things are in place. Let's scroll down. So we only going to list these 3 properties. So I'm going to remove this section, and this gives us an option to go straight to your accommodations if you want to link this to your list of accommodations. So there's a page for that. If we search for accommodations, so there's an accommodation page. So we could link that to view all properties that goes to the accommodation page. As we scroll down, so here's where we could actually, is a nice place you could add your different services that you offer. So instead of having these services down here, I thought, you know what, this looks much better for my services. So I could change that to services, and let's choose some images here to represent our services that you're going to offer. So in my case, I chose breakfast, a spa treatment, and a car rental. So let's go and find breakfast. I'm going to upload an image representing breakfast. So I'll choose this image here for breakfast, insert it, and then just the description needs to change. So I'm just going to say, and again, if you have a particular page with your services, you could then link it to that. I'm not going to do this in this video, but I'm going to do that in a separate video when I'm dealing with services. So same thing, let's change the images, and for this one we're going to choose one for spa treatment, and let us change the description, and let's do the last one. We're going to change this for an image that's representing car rental. We'll change the description. Okay, and we'll leave that. This has a really nice animation and effect. If you had any description, you could have changed this text below. I'm not going to use this section, and here's where you could actually edit your testimonials. So instead of saying what our clients are saying, maybe we could say what our guests say, and instead of happy clients, we could now change that to happy guests. And here's a nice place where you could come and change your images. If you have some guest testimonials that you want to use, then you could change out those or so forth. Of course, you'll ask your guest permission. I'll delete that last section there. And yeah, I think really this is our home page. I think it's already working. Let's see how best we could adjust some of the other pages, but let's preview this. Let's just see how much we have gotten accomplished within the last hour or so forth. So let's see if our accommodations are working. So if I choose the 20th and I say I want to go until the 23rd, and I'm just going to use for adults, and let's click search. Great, so it's already telling us that there is 3 accommodations found from January. Now here it is, we are seeing that our background is a little bit difficult to read. So we want to change that so it's a little bit easier for us to reach. Let's look at how we could adjust that. So let's go back to our backend, and we're going to go to appearances and customize again. And we want to go to page layout, and where we have design, I wanted to click on the search so we could see it as we're editing it. So we want to change the page title background. So if we click here, and let's say we wanted to choose that same kind of darker background, so that we could just see it better. And if we want to make it similar to like the scroll effect, you know, we could. You also have the option of choosing an image as well. If there's an image that really fits what you want to do, then maybe you could choose an image and adjust it a bit. So if you have something that fits, then do that. This don't fit that great. You know, you could also do something like a gradient effect. If that works for you, then fine. But here, that's where you could go to really adjust that. So I'll leave that for now. So, but I just want you to see where you would go to kind of update that. And let's publish it. So let's go back. If I refresh this now, we'll now see, okay, that's much easier to read. You know, you could do some more work to get that looking the way you want it to look. And as we scroll down, we could see the different accommodations. And if I say, okay, you know what, I want to book this one, and then I could confirm reservation. So from here now, I could come in and select. Now it's telling me that this is going to be 6,600 by default, but if I click the drop down, I could now see this will accommodate 6 adults, 5 children for the 6 nights, and that's the rate. But what if I said it's only a couple? Did we set a different rate for couples? When I choose that, look at that, it automatically adjusts. When I come down, it was saying I think $1,000 a night. Now it's saying it's $600 a night, because we had a variable rate for couples in comparison. So if I change that to, for example, 4, it should, and let's say I had 0 children, same thing. Notice it adjusts now and it's $800 per night. And that's kind of the effect I really like about the MotoPress booking plugin. You have your payment gateways below where you could select it and book your property. Of course, we'll enter our information and complete our booking. So we already have a working booking website. We could take bookings one time and you could do so. Just for the benefit of this, I'm just going to enter a booking for myself. If you had a coupon code, you could have entered that there. So again, let me just enter a booking. I've entered some information so that we could just create a booking. I'm going to say it's going to be direct bank transfer. What's the dates I've selected? January 20th to the 26th. And I am booking the Orchid Villa. I'll choose book now. And if I go to the Orchid Villa, if I scroll down to the availability section, you'll notice this is now blocked off. It's already saying I can't book this if I'm somebody else looking to make a booking. All right, so let's continue. We're also noticing we can't see our title with the standard header adjusting. Let's see how we do that. So if we go back to customize, let's go back. If we go to header, and I want to edit that primary navigation bar, but let's click on something so we could see the page, so we could make sure it's actually changing as we edit it. So if we choose the primary navigation, we click the settings button and we go to design, and we're looking for the navigation color. So we're going to choose our brand color. So there we go, we'll see that adjusting. Let's change the same thing for the social icon. Let's go to design and let's change the brand color, so we could see that, but it changes to white. So we want to change the hover color, let's say to that secondary brand color as well. And we needed to do the same thing for the navigation. Let's just go back and change the navigation to that second brand color, and the active we could be that main brand color as well. So at least we could see our navigation bar as we go through the website, and we'll publish. Let's go back. All right, and we could, if we refresh this, we should now see that listed there. All right, so what we want to do, let's quickly update the services page. so that this looks much closer to the services that we want to offer. If we go back to customize, and I'll close that, and we can go to pages. Let's look for the services page, and we'll edit in Elementor. Okay, so let's start from the top. We want to change that background image, and let's go back to our sample page. If we go to services, what do we have on our top? All right, so we have that image there at the top of our services. Let's do that. So we'll come to style, and we're going to change the image, and we had this image here. Great. If we minimize that, yeah, we could still read that. That works. And if you wanted it to just be a little bit easier to read with the white, you have the option of increasing that opacity. So just to make it, you can make it a little darker. So when you minimize, it's easier on the eyes, just subtle in the background. We want to change these items to better represent the services that you're offering. So let's say the first one is breakfast. Okay, now this is automatically linked to this section. It's automatically named. So I won't change this because it's linked to the section, but you could actually, if I change it up here, you want to change it down there as well. But we don't need to in this case. So I'm just going to change this to breakfast. I want to change the background image that you're seeing here to something representing breakfast, and that's the case. And you would want to change the different text. So maybe you had different breakfasts that is being offered. So in my case, I had things like continental, English breakfast, or so on. And you could do the same thing. As you come over here to change this, you select the widget, come on the left, and change the text. All right, so we have continental breakfast. That will change there as well. And I think I had English breakfast, and so forth. Then you could make the changes. Same thing below. I'm just going to change the main image. And for this one, let's say I had spa treatment, and you change the text. And then you could come down and do the same thing. You could indicate different spa treatments, similar to what I did here. Okay, I did car rental and then spa treatment. But you're starting to get the picture. I did a nice wedding section and so forth. It's the same thing. I'm not going to do all of it. I just wanted to give you an idea of how do you change the different sections. You click on the section, you go to style, and then you could change the image. Once you've done so, go ahead, change the descriptions. But as I said, I'm going to do an entire video on services, and I'm going to come back to this page and then show us how we could use these services to add to our booking to make extra revenue. So I'm just going to update this as well. So same thing for the contacts. Let's look at the contacts page. So if we go to contacts, we have this page here. How do we edit it? Same thing. We could actually edit it from right here. We could go to edit with Elementor, and we want to change this image. You could click on the image and choose something else representing your property. So I'll scroll down and just choose something else. Here then you could change the text representing your location, your hours, your social icons, your text, and so forth. Now here is important, we have this submission form here, but these information may not suit the type of queries we're looking for. Now, how do we change this? So what we'll notice on the left is that it is a Fluent form, and it has a real estate form that is set to allow us to send us some sort of notification or so on. We need to change that, but we can't change it here. We need to change it in the back end. So if we go in the back end, this was a little bit weird. When it imported, I didn't see the Fluent form option. Not sure why it's not there by default. So when I came here, I had to deactivate the Fluent form plugin, and when I reactivated it, it came up here. Right? Again, just another glitch sometime with some of these So when I came in and I come into Fluent forms, I now saw the different forms. So if let's see which one of them, this is real estate 1. So we have real estate 1 and 2 there. So if I choose edit, and here we have this drop down list. So same thing, you know, so we could kind of change it something relevant to us. You know, are you interested in making a booking, or maybe it's a special event, or maybe regarding some of our services we offer, and you could then remove any of the others that, or if it's just something that says other. So once you've made the changes, and you could change any of the other items here, you'll save the form. Now, you know, you could also come and check your other settings here as well for the particular form. So you have your settings and integration. So you have your email notification. So you could decide if you want to have an admin notification email for someone that's sent, and you know, so here's where you could enable that. Then we have our form settings. If we come here, you'll notice this is the confirmation, like what someone gets once they submit the form, and you could change like your layout and things like that. So here's where you could make some of your editing for that particular form, but I'm going to leave it as is, and I'm just going to save the settings. And let's go back now to the form. If I refresh this, if we come now to the section here that says what you're interested in, you'll now see the new options that are here, which says booking, events, services, and so forth. We do have this heading here that we want to change as well. Let's change the image. I'll choose a similar image here for the contact us, and we'll do the same thing with a background overlay. We'll make it just a little bit darker, so it's easier in terms of just being able to read it. And let's update that. All right, so let's go back to our home page. Let's get a sense of what we've been able to do. We'll go back to the home page. Okay, so this will give you a good sense of what you could do. You could really make this your own, spend some more time tweaking the things that is necessary. So this is, you know, the things that the customers will see. But what about you? You know, how do you now manage this? What are some of the things that you could now do? What if someone calls you and you need to add a booking? So that's the last thing we're going to look at. Again, there's really a lot we could do here, but you could go to bookings, and within here you'll see the booking that I just made. And let's assume that someone now call you and say, hey, I want to make a payment via wire transfer, and I sent you the wire and you got that confirmation. Then you could come into the booking by choose edit, come down within the booking, and you could add a payment manually. So you could come down here, choose add payment manually. You could choose the payment gateway. Let's say it's a direct bank transfer. The person might have, let's say they made a deposit, so you received $2,400, and you could indicate the payment type. You could say bank transfer. You put in your ID, whatever the person might have sent you with the ID, and then you could put any notes, any logs that you want, and create the payment. Now, if you go back to bookings, you will now notice that it has the payment that was made. The same way, you could also come to new booking and enter a booking of your own in the back end. And if I click just search, then you will see the available villas that are there. But if you also choose the particular accommodation, it will show you the highest rate. It's actually showing the low rate here because we haven't specified what we're looking for. So those are some ways in how you could actually add your new booking. You could also go and add a coupon, as I spoke to you about. I usually use the calendar option so that you could see your entire calendar and see that you have a particular booking. I also showed you in your previous video, this is still the same in terms of how you could sync your calendar with Airbnb. So I will link a copy to that video in this one. But you know, if you have any additional questions, I think you could definitely ask me in the comments. But you know, what do you think about the changes in the hotel booking plugin? Is this something that you think you could use? Is this something that works for you? Do you have any additional comments or questions that you think you want to find out about? Ask me in the comment. I'd love to really help you. I'm excited about hospitality, and this year is a great year to bounce back. I've already seen a lot of domestic bookings in the property that I manage. But if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe so when I post more content related to hotel booking websites, you will be notified. I want to do a new video for all those additional add-ons so you could see how you could really take your hotel booking website to the next level. I'll see you in the next one.